here again with you today on this beautiful Thursday, a little bit overcast morning, but it's okay. We have a lovely winter in Houston, so it's all right. So, but I have a special friend of mine here with me today. His name is Wayne Brezz. How are you doing, Wayne?
Good morning, Evelyn. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good,
Good, good,
good.
good.
No, we were just talking about I've known Wayne for about a year now, and we haven't really seen each other since the holidays, and so
Right,
we really
right.
have a lot to catch up on.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like forever.
It
It hasn't been
does.
that long though, really.
No, just not too long ago since the H-Town Awards.
I know. Those just
You know?
last November. So
Yeah,
yeah, time
really.
flies.
Yes, it does. I know it seems like it's quick, and then sometimes it goes really slow, and other times fast.
Oh yeah,
You
it's
know,
weird
so
like that, right?
exactly. And matter of fact, that's where the first time I met you was at the
hmm
H-Town Awards just in November,
Yeah.
and sometimes that wasn't a year. It just seems like I've
Right,
known
right.
you for a long
It's
time.
it was last year. See.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. That's right. And so tell us about the award that you won at the H-Town
Yeah, that
Awards.
was incredible. Shout out to the H-Town Awards show. I won Breakout Artist of the Year. I was nominated for three of the award categories. It was for Music Video of the Year, Breakout Artist, and R&B Artist. And we went away with Breakout Artist. Such a blessing. And thank you to everyone, all the fans and friends who voted.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Well, it's been actually my first time attending too, and I can't wait till next year. But what a fun show! And
Oh,
Tim,
it was, it
yeah, and a
was.
shout out to Tim Martin also for doing
Right?
such a
Shout
great
out to
job.
Tim. Yeah, Tim Lucas, the whole
Yeah,
crew.
yeah, and it just went so smoothly and fun, and
Yeah.
of course the first time I heard you sing and the songs, and then we started talking afterward about mental health and things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So we had an instant connection, and really, we were able to talk about a lot of mental health related things
Evelyn,
too.
you started talking, and now we met actually at the golf tournament a little bit, couple
Oh,
months
that's
before that,
right.
and we started
That's
talking about mental
right.
health, and then that really got us, I guess, on the same page, and just, I guess, in
That's
each other's
true.
radar. Yeah.
True. At Ravenel Country Club.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's it.
yep, exactly. That's right. And Tim Martin introduced us to. I
Yeah, that's
remember
it.
that. So I should have told him to make sure he tuned in today. So I'll make sure he
Right.
watches it later. He's getting a lot of shout outs here. So
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
but that's true. And so tell us about your background. Are you from the Houston area?
Yeah, born and raised in Houston, and for a short period of time, I moved to Los Angeles, but I moved back to Houston, and I guess that's probably where you want to start at when I joined the police academy. Around there, I became a police officer, and I was a police officer about 6.5 years here in the Houston area, and it music has always been in my life. It's always been that go-to there, that escape, or even that background soundtrack of my life. But somehow law enforcement as well, because it's in my family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my mom's in law enforcement. A shout out to my mama. uh, but
And thank you to her for her service and for you
absolutely,
also, of course.
thank you, thank you. But yeah, that's just a little bit about uh, where I've been at least. Houston, Los Angeles, mostly.
Gotcha. So have you always been one of those type of people that as a little kid you sang when you were 5 and 6 years old and
Yeah, yeah,
music
that's
was always in your life?
always. My mom will always say that I was she'll have friends over and I'll be in front of the TV or just in front of them
Right.
trying to entertain. So
Yeah.
that was always that live entertainment.
Is there anyone else in your family that sings, or where do you feel like you got your talent from?
My mom sings, but she
Oh,
act like she
okay.
don't, but she
Oh.
really does. I think she told me she was in the choir when she was a kid, but
Okay.
I grew up in church choir for some time before I left the church. But yeah,
Yeah, that's good. And
yeah,
that's always a great place to get lots of experience, a lot of practice.
yeah,
Because it's
yeah.
every Sunday or every
Right,
Saturday or whatever. So,
right.
and practice sessions too, and
Right.
all of that.
So
So, was there a certain part of Houston that you actually served when you were a police officer?
yeah, down in Clear Lake, it
Ah,
was
okay.
Webster Police Department. So
Ah,
yeah,
okay. Oh,
yeah,
interesting. How
yeah.
about that? And so you were, I don't know all the terms, but how did
Mhm.
you start out? And what did you do the whole 6 years? Were you the same
Oh,
position?
no. So in 2008, I graduated from the police academy,
Mm-hmm.
and so I guess for the first year or two, you're considered a
Right.
rookie. So that was my rookie phase or probationary phase. And I guess it was right after my 2-year mark, I went to SWAT Academy to become a SWAT operator. And after that, I really started looking towards being a detective. So I put in for that and became detective around my 4-year mark, I believe. And all through that, I worked as supervisor a few times on night shift. But yeah, that was kind of the scope of. I did some undercover work as well, but I'm not in it anymore. I swear.
Yeah. And so all of you, if you are watching, he is not doing undercover, and he's not undercover today.
Right,
No.
right.
And he is no longer a police officer. He
Right,
is
right.
a entertainer now.
Yeah.
And a recording artist. So, but what made you think go to the SWAT direction? Of course, I like to watch Chicago PD, and I'm sure a lot that's not even close to what life is really like. But
Yeah.
the SWAT's at really high level type
Ah,
situations.
I think it's probably my dad's fault. He loves anime, so just the things that he watched on TV, it kind of just sparked my inner kid in me, I guess. And so I guess looking for the most adrenaline-filled position at what I was doing was, I mean, even before I became in law enforcement, the reason I was an entertainer was because the rush of being on stage in front of people, uh, all eyes, or I guess you could say, but it was more so the adrenaline of the action, I guess.
Right. And I would think it'd be very exciting
It is.
to
It,
have
it
all
really
those
is. It
people
really is.
out there listening just to you and enjoying what you're doing.
Well, in the in
Yeah.
the, in the entertainment, yeah, absolutely. But more so, uh, I loved Patrol, but it was something about just uh, having a tactical advantage, and then the training that goes in behind it, and then being able to train other officers. I was also a field training officer, so I taught firearms, safety and everything else that goes into it. So it was rewarding in some parts of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just see you with a gun on and
Can you
all that
really?
stuff. So yeah.
Can you really? No, you can't. Like most.
Actually, he showed me pictures. That's why I can see it. So, I mean, I know most people will say, "Wow, you are a recording artist, and you
Yeah.
look like a recording artist," but it's hard to see that. Yes, you were a police officer.
I swear when I look at the photos too, I'm like, oh man, that was me.
Yeah, who was
You know,
that? Right? Who was
right?
that
Like,
guy?
ah.
Were there any situations in particular that you can tell us about that were just really, just high intensity that
I
you could
mean,
share with us?
so this album, Rise Above, was really, and that's my latest album that I released in November of 2018. This album really had a pivotal, I guess, talking point around a particular moment that happened in my career as a police officer. And it was an apartment fire that I was dispatched to, where some children lost their lives. And honestly, at the time, I didn't think it affected me,
Right.
as much as it did. And I began to, I guess, cope with what I didn't think I had a problem at, to start with in various ways. And that was just, seeking happiness or seeking some type of peace in alcohol, especially, I started, going out heavily, and just anything that I could do to not think about anything that I had to do between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. When I was off, it was that. Yeah.
And I know with Advocates of Healthy Minds, I've spoken to a lot of police officers and veterans also,
Yeah.
and just everything that y'all do and see, and things like that, where you were able to get there in time or to save these young children, and I mean
Right.
I'm sure one of the examples of all the many different things you saw during those years.
Yeah, yeah, and
Also,
guilt is a big part of it. Guilt, and it's misplaced guilt most of the times.
right.
It's not seeing it from the eyes of that you did what that you could possibly do. And that's where you have to find your peace at. And I found I had to find my peace in a deeper anchor, and I'll be honest, God literally took me to the bottom of that rabbit hole. But it was God who pulled me out of that, and I had to refocus my eyes on something that was a little bit stronger, and an anchor of something that was true, and not something that I was living through the eyes of the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I can see, what you're saying in that area too, because so many of this affects so many people, whether it's anxiety or depression
Hmm.
and like you said, the guilt
Yeah.
too, that part of it. And all of us lay people, see that our police officers, our veterans, do need to have some type of healing recovery.
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
why our organization is offering healing recovery
And that
classes
is
now
incredible.
too, which
Right.
is good, definitely. And I mean, we can all see why that would be.
Yeah.
I think it takes a special person to become a police officer,
Hmm.
to be able to say, yes, I'm going to handle all this. And I, for one, I used to say, just thank you for your service, but now it's service and sacrifice.
Hmm.
It really
It, it,
is
it is. It's a
sacrifice you go
sacrifice.
through too.
It's a sacrifice on that officer. It's a sacrifice on
Mhm.
that officer's family.
Right.
Um, and I guess you really don't see when you're in it how much of a sacrifice that it plays, or that it takes. Uh, but there's a sacrifice, but there is a reward to it as well. To my brothers and sisters in the blue, you know, I commend you, because it is a sacrifice putting on that gun and that badge each and every day.
Right. And it's hard to imagine. I have a female friend that is a officer and so
Mhm.
on, and just, it's on Facebook and that type of thing too, that, every time you leave, and she has a son and, and a whole family and that type of thing. And every time you leave that house, I have several friends actually
Mhm.
that either have a husband or they're the officer or whatever.
Right.
And I just can't think, oh my gosh, how tough that would be to leave every day.
Mhm.
And of course you're very well trained and so on, but it can be scary out there too, I'm sure, with just all the things that's going on in our world. We've got some crazy people out there.
It is,
It's
and,
like
and each day is something new.
yeah.
You're meeting a wide range of personalities and emotions and histories. So the
Right.
unknown is definitely at your front door
Yeah.
each and every day. Yeah.
Right. And of course, I didn't mean the word crazy and mental health crazy wise. We don't say that word ever anymore. And
Right,
I know
right,
it's,
right.
it's funny. I'm talking to my audience too, but I've known Wayne for a long time, so, well, a while anyway. But we have such a closeness, we know what we're talking about. But I mean crazy in that you never know what's going to happen out there.
Right,
Just like you said,
right, right.
and with the situations in our world today, and the people react to things, and all the pressures and stresses and
Absolutely.
everything that, I don't think we had years ago. And
Yeah, and we use the word crazy, but in the Bible, he uses it alludes to storms, or, and we go through these storms in our lives,
right.
and you know, I think at some point we have to begin to look at an illness as a person going through a storm or a season, something that I can't remember who was talking about it with me, but uh, when you're dealing with a mental illness, no one comes inside that cask. You break your arm, or your leg.
Right.
Your friends will come see you in the hospital, and
Mhm,
sign away at that. But when someone's going through something that's not necessarily always shown on the outside, uh, you know, it's something we have
right.
to stay away from, or it's one of those taboo conversations.
Exactly. That stigma is still out there,
Absolutely, it is.
and so when I said crazy, I meant the craziness of our world
Oh, yeah.
today,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
you know what I meant. But yeah, mental health is here. It
it
really
is.
is. And I think finally it is getting recognized more, and the stigma is getting less.
Yes.
We still have a long ways to go,
Hmm.
but you're exactly right. With mental health, it's not written somewhere that I just had open heart surgery or
Right.
whatever. And I've had people give me details about their open heart surgery.
Right.
But
Right.
then it's mental health, and I won't talk about that, or I can't can't talk about it, or, but I think it's getting better. I
I
know
do.
when we started talking about, of course, I told you about nonprofit.
Right, right,
And that's why our name is advocating
right.
for healthy minds. And the whole idea is to have people have healthier minds.
Yeah, yeah.
But like you said, even as a police officer, there's so much that you had to face as a police
Hmm.
officer, but that doesn't mean that there was nothing, or like you said, maybe storms or tribulations that could be going on in your life
Right,
at the
right, right.
same time. So you had
Absolutely,
both.
absolutely, and I don't think
Mhm.
I was I don't think I was alone in that feeling. I don't think
Right.
and I know, should I say, that people are going through these same storms. Um, but just to let if anyone is listening, you're not alone.
Right.
You're really
Yeah,
not. And I
exactly.
think oftentimes what happens is people lose hope.
Yeah.
And something happens traumatically, and well, I I don't know where to go from here. I lost this, or I can't find this, and it's just the hope that they can't see past their situation. They can't see past that current storm that they're in.
Right.
That it's going to get better. That it will get better.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
if I could advocate anything, is that hope is still, so hope is here.
Mhm.
God is
Mhm.
always with us,
Mhm.
and that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, exactly. And it too, like you said at the time, it's always, even if you have to say a million times, this too shall pass,
Yeah,
because
right,
it
right.
does and it will.
It
It's
will.
just so
It
hard
will.
when you're going through it at that time to feel like it's going to get better,
Yeah.
because, and I think you were right, it's the hope,
Hmm.
and giving, and people need to have hope and
Right.
see there's always hope, always,
Right.
you know.
You know, we just have to look at the things that are sometimes so obvious that are in our lives to give us signs
Mhm.
that change is coming, that hope is coming, that storm too is going to end. Just look at your day.
Right.
The sun comes, the sun sets,
Mhm.
it comes
Mhm.
again.
Mhm.
Everything has its
Right.
order,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I promise wherever
Yeah.
you feel that you are in that storm, whether you're in the eye, whether it's just starting for
Right.
you, whether it's been a 1 year storm, a 7 year storm, if you just feel like you've been dealing with this storm all your life,
Right.
I promise you, no storm goes on forever,
Mhm.
and that too will
Mhm.
end.
And there'll be that time that all of a sudden it's like, wow, things are just turning around here.
Right, right.
And like you said, that's
Instantly,
when that
suddenly.
storm is settling down. And it's,
Right,
yeah, exactly.
right,
And if you give up and were to take your own life, then you won't get to see that, for one thing.
right, right. You're
And
right.
I know the suicide rate's very, very high, and
Very high.
that's our whole hope. And I know with veterans, with our first responders and so on, and like we talked about too, there's so much that you all deal with too, that with police officers, veterans, and so on, and then the rest of life also.
Right.
But it doesn't matter who you are, there's always hope, like you were talking about.
Yes.
So, and so how did you go from being a police officer to a recording artist now?
Oh,
Took a while, I bet.
I, so, so it started. It was honestly something that was congruent, that was running parallel
Ah.
the entire time. So when I left Los Angeles, excuse me,
Mhm.
I guess
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
was heartbroken that what I had went there for didn't
Right.
work out. Which, thousands of
Mhm.
people go to Los Angeles for the Hollywood dream, and it just
Mhm.
doesn't always work out. And so I
Right.
lost hope.
Right. Right.
And so I moved back to Houston. I got into photography.
Mhm. Mhm.
I love photography. I love anything art.
Ah. Uh-huh.
But but at the same time, I joined the police academy because that was something that,
Mhm.
as a kid,
Mhm.
I grew up. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be a cop.
Yeah.
I want to be
Yeah.
a cop. And then so when I told
Plus,
him,
my mother is, so I
right,
was up.
right, she
Yes.
had always talked about it, and so I was like,
Mhm.
all right, I think
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna be a cop. Just
Yeah.
forget that I've been in music all my life. Forget that
Mhm.
I've been a professional dancer. Just
Mhm.
forget all of it. I lost hope in that,
Mhm.
and so I just said, well, maybe my calling is to serve people and to
Mhm.
maybe that was just a season of my life that I can't make a
Right.
career out of
Mhm.
being an
Mhm.
artist.
Mhm.
So I joined law enforcement, and I honestly fell in love with it. I
Mhm.
really did. The ideal that sometimes people's last hope is calling you, and they're really looking for answers. It's you're dealing with people that are, going through their homes, being burglarized, or just some serious things that are happening to people each and every day, and you're meeting the world firsthand, and that's the beautiful part about it. If I had to be frank, it's the interceding, being able to be some type of hope, and some type of I guess answer, or at least find the answers for some people that are going through some serious things. Of course, there's the dark side of it, or there's the world's view of police officers. But each and every day, it is a sacrifice for what these guys do. And so I found a great peace. I found a great love in it. But like I said, I was searching for something that, even though I joined law enforcement, I was still searching. I hadn't necessarily found out that my Father in heaven loved me that much, that anything that I would have asked for, that he would have given it to me, and that I didn't have to work at anything, that it was already, that what he wanted in my life, he had already given it to me. And so he had to show me the hard way by showing me the world, how the world really is. And as being a detective, being a patrol officer, I saw some of the most ugliest parts, some of the darkest parts of the world. And without that anchor, without saying, without knowing that everything was going to be okay, without knowing that, it's not my fault, without knowing that, I was qualified for this before I was even called to it, and that's something that God has spoken over my life. But without knowing that, without having that anchor, I I got lost. I got lost in the healing of attempting, I guess, to find ways to heal myself, or to deal with it myself. And I'll be honest, and I don't know if I'm speaking for a lot of people when I say this, but I didn't know I was hurt. I didn't know I was hurting. You know,
I just thought it's just part of the job.
and and even with the warning in the police academy, they tell you three things are top statistics for police officers, and that's suicide, alcoholism, and divorce. And well, I was like, well, I'm single, so I'm not divorced, and I'm not.
I don't have to worry about getting divorced. Check
right,
that one off.
and, at the time, I didn't think I was suicidal. I'm good. And even the alcoholism, I didn't think I had alcohol. I didn't think alcohol was a issue in my life because it was fun. It was bringing me the
party,
peace. Right, people party. But I lost control of that, and that was the issue. Me thinking I had control, and not having that control properly placed in God, and that in knowing who my Savior was. So, in Him bringing me through this storm, placing me in a place of preparation, He pulled me out and He gave me a word. He said, "Wayne, I want you to live with love. Whatever you think that you've been through, whatever you think that you've done, or anything that you think you wasn't good enough for, I want you to know that I've called you to greater than that, and I want you to live with love and to spread that message of love." And I'll tell you, from that moment, it's very difficult to look back, and the times when I do look back, it's only to reflect on how far I've come, and looking towards to how much more God is going to do in my life.
Exactly. I can imagine, as you're speaking, I can imagine that as a police officer that say, for example, for myself, I would want you to be the one that would come to my house if I had a burglary or something or whatever, because as you would be there to help me feel more comfortable and things like that. I think because of your personality, and as you said before, there's all kinds of personalities in our world.
There
It
is.
doesn't matter what profession it is,
Right.
and same thing with police officers, with men and women. You're going to have all kinds of different personalities too.
Right.
And I think some of our police officers have gotten hardened, and I can see why.
Yeah.
I don't blame them one bit. I think it's to protect themselves in a
Absolutely.
way too, being like
Right.
emotionally too,
Absolutely.
and also physically, because you never know what's going to happen when you're
They're
out
going
there.
through. Uh, when we think about, when we honestly think about it, unless you have an anchor in something stronger than what you're going through, you're going to become that thing. You know, there's a
That's
saying
true.
that
Yeah.
you know you keep a close circle. And imagine if you're in the world
Right.
just absorbing that each and every day. Your eyes are seeing the craziest, the most insane things. Your ears are hearing the most violent words, and even sometimes you're having to say something that is contrary to your heart. You're going to lose grip on that if you're not anchored into really who you are
And
and
strongly
strong in
anchored.
that, right? And so again, it's a tremendous sacrifice,
And like you said, so many, I mean, that's your whole shift.
right?
That could happen anytime. I'm sure not every minute something's happening,
Yeah,
but I'm sure you saw a lot of things in, situations that, like you said, you had to go actually out of your own personality's comfort zone.
right,
Because there's certain people that only understand a certain way to be talked to
right.
and things like that. Or,
Absolutely, absolutely.
they may be under the influence of something when you were there and there's things you had to do and so on. And that constant, I can understand totally that constant happened to be like that all the
Yeah.
time. And I'm sure that's why there's divorces that happen too, because how do you turn that off
Right. How do you?
when you get home?
Exactly. Exactly. That's.
You know?
How do you not bring your work home?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would think that too with the family and the children and I mean there's times you'd be angry at the world. It's because they're so, like you said, you saw the ugliest part
Right.
of our world.
Yeah.
Instead of other professions see the most beautiful part of our
Right.
world all the time.
And it's and honestly, it's not just police officers who are seeing these sides, and it's nurses, it's teachers, it's everywhere, and I think oftentimes people think, well, I'm alone in this.
Right.
I'm just a banker, or I just work at the grocery store. I'm alone in this feeling. No, no, no. My man, no, sweetie, you're not alone. Everyone is dealing with this. Everyone.
Absolutely.
When it rains, it rains. And so don't think you're isolated or alone in this. And that's what the enemy, the enemy in you wants to think, and it wants to do is it wants to get you alone, and get alone in those thoughts, because then those thoughts,
Right.
you know, it starts sounding great. It starts sounding like, you know what, maybe this is the answer I take my life. Maybe I'm better off not in the world and around people. Maybe it's better this way.
And maybe other people are better off if I do.
Right.
Which is absolutely not the case, because when a loved one does do that, it devastates your
It's a
loved
ripple
ones.
effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah. So we have about 4 minutes left.
Oh,
So
that
I know
went
it's gone
quick.
fast. I know. We could talk for hours, couldn't I? I know you all might get bored, but anyway, we could talk for a long time. But the one thing I want you to talk about is your song, Rise Above.
okay.
And of course, I just love your song. And tell our audience where would they go right now if they wanted to hear your song, Rise Above?
Okay, so Rise Above is everywhere on Apple Music, Spotify. It's on all digital platforms. Also, my website, which is waynebrezz.com. That's WayneBrezz. I spell it
That
weird.
double Z.
You know it?
Just that little coolness there. Yeah.
Right, and Rise Above is a up-tempo pop song that God placed in my heart, and it's what we mentioned earlier, a voice that says live with love, and it's a song about my salvation. It's a song from me going from a place of just brokenness to a place of understanding my salvation in Christ Jesus.
And I just love it, that song. It is so amazing and, like you said, upbeat and really good.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, it just would be what we would expect to hear on the radio right now, too.
Hey,
And
I'll
today
be
in
performing
2020.
it. My next show is February the 23rd at the Tune Out Cancer Music Festival. I have big surprises, maybe some prizes that we saw at the H-Town Awards. So,
Cool.
yeah, I can't wait.
Yes, and when you must go see that, you must go to all these different places that he said you can go to, because the video that goes along with it's amazing.
Yeah, go
too.
see the video. It's on
Yeah.
Vivo on my website.
Yeah.
Please go check it out.
Great. So thank you all for tuning in today. And thank you so much, Wayne, for being here. It's just a pleasure.
Evelyn, it is always a pleasure. I love GQ Radio. I love you, of course. What you're doing in the community is incredible. It really is bringing awareness to something that, like I said, is taboo, especially in pop culture and especially in our youth. Mental health really needs to be, hey, wake up. This is happening now, even in elementary schools. Suicide and things like this. So let's wake up. Let's
Sadly,
get the
we must
message
stop
out.
the stigma, and starting with everyone out there. And thanks for you bringing all that up today too. So thank you all.
Okay. All
We'll
right.
see you next week. Bye.
Awesome. This next song is Rise Above on GQ Radio. Check it out.
There, yay.
I guess I was hurt, surrounded by anger, turned phlegmatic, it's so worse. The people I called just wasn't them, and I was hurt. Until I found lust in love, no trust in this could work. No trust and it works. Then I heard a voice, live with love and rise above, above. Then I heard a voice, live with love and rise above, above. Watch me rise above, love, rise, love, rise, love, rise. Watch me rise above, love, rise, love, rise, love, rise. Watch me rise above. Watch me rise above. Watch me rise. I guess I was hurt, surrounded by anger.